Yes,
here.
it's all good.
Yeah.
Well, hello everyone, and welcome to today's LinkedIn Live. It's a pleasure for me to have Yolanda Zhang with me, and I'll just give you a brief overview of who she is. Sorry. Yolanda is no stranger to bold career reinventions. Currently navigating her fourth career change and pursuing her third degree, she has transitioned from engineering to high school teaching, entrepreneurship, and now mental health advocacy and coaching. Through resilience, self discovery, and a commitment to growth, Yolanda has embraced change at every stage of her professional journey while staying true to her passion for empowerment and education. As the founder of Girls Strong, a nonprofit dedicated to building confidence and leadership in youth, and Panda Mandarin, a thriving language school, Yolanda has created platforms that foster learning, cultural identity, and personal development. Now pursuing a master's degree in counseling psychology, she's preparing for her next chapter, one that blends her lived experience, expertise in trauma informed care, and passion for supporting others on their journeys of transformation. Yolanda's story is one of embracing uncertainty, redefining success, and daring to step into new possibilities. On Braving Career Changes, she will share her insights on navigating transitions with resilience, overcoming self doubt, and finding purpose in unexpected places. Whether you're considering a career pivot or standing at a crossroads, Yolanda's journey will inspire you to embrace change with confidence and curiosity. Well, what a whole lot of things,
Yeah.
Yolanda, but I am thrilled to have you here today as we embark on this topic of braving career changes. So, did I get everything right?
And then some, Daisy.
And
Thank
then
you
some.
for that
Great.
lovely introduction. I have
Thank
to
you.
say, it felt a little bit uncomfortable to be hearing you say all of those things back to me. But I appreciate it. And
Yes.
Daisy, as you know, I've been following your work and really looking up to you for years now because of
Yes.
my
Well,
dear friend Alicia.
I
Too.
appreciate that as
Yeah.
well. And you know what? Ever since we met, even though we didn't meet physically until just recently, but we
Yeah.
have been around for a long time. And I'm inspired by your journey, actually. So let's dive in.
Sure.
So, Yolanda, what inspired you to make your first career change? And how did that experience shape your approach to the others that followed?
Yeah, so I was 24 when I got this amazing job. It was at GE Healthcare. They have a series of amazing leadership programs. So I was in their commercial leadership program. And I felt really special to be chosen that year because they choose only one out of all the universities in Canada for this program. And so once I got in, after many rounds of interviews, I never thought I would leave. And GE is an amazing company that really keeps its people there and is really committed to development. So I really didn't think I would leave. But after about 2 years, I really felt like there was something missing for me.
Mhm.
And even though I had an amazing opportunity to grow in the company and it was a very lucrative position, I was really questioning my purpose in life. And I thought there was a book I read at that time called Quarter Life Crisis. And
Mm.
I really felt, at 25, 26, I really felt like that's what was happening. I was having a quarter life crisis. And so it wasn't an easy decision, but it was one that I felt really called
Mm-hmm.
to explore further. And I think when I told my manager that I was leaving and I told my coworkers, really everyone thought I was just out of my mind, because why would I walk away
Right.
from so much security, so much potential? And so, to your question, it wasn't an easy decision. It
Mm-hmm.
took a lot of soul searching. I did volunteering at my former high school,
Mm-hmm.
and luckily, I was still in touch with many of my high school teachers, and they really helped me to actually make this decision. And I remember sitting in a classroom just watching the teacher teach a physics class. And I really was trying to think, can I see myself in her shoes
Mm-hmm.
doing what she's doing? And it took me about another year actually to decide, yeah, that's what I'm going to do. And I applied to Teachers College. I got into U of T, and right before I accepted and had to, quit my job, I was still doubting this
Mm-hmm.
decision. And I was on a flight for work to Vancouver. So it's like a 5-hour flight.
Right.
And I sat beside a Catholic priest who talked to me about his career change from being an engineer to becoming a priest. And statistically, that encounter
Mm-hmm.
cannot be anything but a sign from the universe, the source, whatever, your version of God is. Like, I was
Yes.
like, that is just my sign that I need to do this. Like, I need to
Mm-hmm.
do this. And he said, I know it feels scary right now because you're so young, there's so many options out there, but I want to tell you how many parishioners I see every day in their 60s, 70s, who wish that they had this chance at your age to
Right.
make that decision and to make that shift, because now they're having issues with their health. Their kids are not talking to them because they focus so much on work. And I used to travel so much that I became I forget what the status is now, like super elite or something with Air Canada, because I was
Okay.
just constantly flying. And yeah, so that actually took away any doubt that I had, and I wrote my resignation letter, and accepted the spot at OISE, U of T, and that's how I made my first career change.
Mm-hmm. That's interesting, Yolanda. What advice would you give to what advice would you give to someone who is thinking of changing careers now that you have been through four different changes?
Well, I think the first one is always the scariest. And if you are about to make your first career change, I just want to say it gets easier,
Mm-hmm.
and that it feels scary because you're being called to doing it from somewhere deep inside of you.
Mm-hmm.
And take your time to do your research and make sure that you're making an informed decision, of course.
Right.
Talk to people, put yourself in the situation that you want to be in the next career, whatever that might be. Kind of like what I did.
Mm-hmm.
So I actually sat in a classroom, watched the teacher teach, interacted with the students, and really try to see myself in her shoes. And if I couldn't, or it felt uncomfortable, or not even uncomfortable, because discomfort is okay too. But if it felt not right, something just didn't sit right, then it may not be the right move. But just don't let fear stop you,
Mm-hmm.
would be like my biggest advice.
Advice. Okay, thanks. So, well, you just mentioned fear, and my next question is about fear. Many people fear starting over later in life.
Mm.
What mindset shifts or strategies helped you navigate career transitions, especially when you went back to grad school at 44? And you don't look 44. So let me just say that.
I have good lighting. So I think for me, I would say that if you're making any change,
Mhm.
really any time in your life, it could feel like it's too late. Because believe it or not, at 26,
Mhm.
27, making the career change, my first one, I felt like I was too late.
Okay.
And because, I thought, oh, I have to go back to school for a whole year and then start again in a new teaching career. I'll be at the bottom of, you know, the industry or bottom,
Seniority, yes.
yeah, starting from scratch. So I think because I experienced that once and how silly it was to think at 27 that I was too old, I thought at 44, going back to grad school, I looked 20 years ahead on myself at 64, what I would say, right? I would say, 44, you're a baby. Do it, you
Mm-hmm.
know? So I think that was the mindset I was in because I had done this, you know, almost 20 years ago for the first time
Right.
going back to school. I realized you always will feel like, oh, I'm too old to do this, it's too late, and you compare yourself to your peers and see where they are at in their careers and think, oh, what if I take 2 years off or three
Yes.
years to do a degree? They're going to be way ahead of me. That kind of comparison happens, right? Or even comparing to yourself, you think, well, if I just kept working in 3 years, where would I be,
Right.
you know? And should I take that time off? So I definitely thought about those things as well when I started my master's. But you know what's amazing, Daisy, is I am now 3 courses from being done my program before going into my practicum, which is another 8 months of
Mm-hmm.
clinical practice. I can't even believe it. Blink of an eye, it's it's done. So
Yes.
a year from now, I would have my master's degree. A little over a year in
Mm-hmm.
end of April of next year.
Mm-hmm.
And so time is a funny thing. When you think ahead and you think, oh, I have to invest 2.5 years of my life to do this, and not to mention the tuition and energy and everything. But when you look backwards, you're like, oh my goodness, did a year just go by? And
Mm-hmm.
am I more almost halfway done? So yeah, it's a funny phenomenon, I think.
So it's a matter of just doing it. If you have given much thought to it, then just jump into it. Because like
Yeah,
you said, you started to look forward and say, well, at 64, what if I didn't do it?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like, what would my 64-year-old self tell me
Mm-hmm.
about my decision now? Would
Right.
she say, oh, you're too old to start over? No, you should keep working and not take time to do school. Um, Actually, for Valentine's Day, which was just 2 weeks ago, I
Mm-hmm.
did a little experiment where I wrote myself a love letter
Mm-hmm.
from my future self in 20 years and look at what she would tell me. And this was something I was doing for my Girl Strong program, but
Yes.
it's a mirror. So it's like, I don't know if you can see, it's like a little mirror, but
Mm-hmm.
she wrote all these messages for me, and I get to look at myself in the mirror and really embody these mantras like, I'm enough, I'm beautiful, I'm strong, I rock. And it's signed by future Yoli. So Yoli is my
Yes.
nickname.
Right.
And then if I ever need a reminder, I'd look at myself in the mirror through the eyes of my future self.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something anyone can do. You can get these from like the dollar store and just
Right?
write um, some messages that you want. And what inspired this actually is a friend of mine sent me a photo of me in high school.
Mm-hmm.
And when I look at that version of me now, I see this beautiful, confident young woman. I think I was 17 or 18. But I
Right.
remember that night, it was an event I was emceeing. And I remember feeling so insecure, like about really silly things, like about my arm, like being too fat, or like there are too many rolls in my stomach. I was like 18. I was like in the best shape of my life. And that's what I
Right.
was thinking at that time. So I just thought, wouldn't it be a gift if we can look at ourselves now through the eyes of her future self and see what she would say to us now? I think that truly would be a gift. And yeah, so I know my future self would say, no, you go for that degree, girl. Like, don't delay. You're not
Go
too
for
old.
it.
So
Yes. I was actually trying to find a quote that would represent exactly what you're talking about, but I can't find it. But yeah, so thank you for sharing that. And now, what were some of the biggest challenges that you faced during your career changes, and how did you overcome them?
I would say at each career change, the challenges were different depending
Mm,
on how old I was or what stage in life, even where I was in my own healing journey. So at 27, the career change challenges that I felt the most
mhm.
was pressures from my parents saying, why would you give up? Like we're first generation immigrants here. And so in their mind, it doesn't make any sense that I would give up this amazing job at a Fortune 500 company to go back to school. And at that time, it was already hard to get into teaching, get a job in teaching. So they
Right.
said, then you may not be able to get a job. What, you have to supply teach for years? Like, why would you do that? Like, it just doesn't make any sense. So, out of respect and care for my parents, I struggled a lot
Mhm.
with whether my decision was being too selfish or just really not well founded. So that was at 27. And of course, another challenge is the loss of income, right?
Yes.
Nobody ever go into teaching to make a lot of money. And I was in sales at an amazing company. So just the salary difference was
Mhm.
huge. And to be able to come to terms with that. And of course, luckily I had my husband's support at the time to make this change. But I think the biggest hurdle at that time was um, my parents, and
Yeah.
also just being okay with a lifestyle change, and also knowing that I am making a decision that will put me on a totally different trajectory than some of my classmates, which is very true. Some of my
Mhm.
classmates now are like senior executives at major companies, and their lifestyle is hugely different from mine.
Mhm.
And so yeah, so making those decisions at 27 was really hard because I was conditioned to think your goal in life, is to make a lot of money and have fancy job titles.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So,
Yeah.
but of
So
course, yeah, go ahead.
yeah.
Sorry.
No, just to tap into what you're just saying about your former colleagues, where they are now. As you look back, is there anything that you miss that, especially thinking that um, your your former colleagues are pretty much in say from probably from a monetary financial perspective, they're probably in a better situation. I don't know, I'm just assuming. Yeah, so is there anything out of that you missed?
Yeah. Um, there are a couple of things. And
Mhm.
I think the biggest one is what I could do for my daughter. I think that hits
Mm.
me the hardest, especially during the pandemic. You know, a lot of my friends pulled their kids out of public school and put them in private school because
Mhm.
it's just so much better for support. I'm a big supporter of public school. I'm a product of the public school system, but that was hard during the
Mhm.
pandemic to know that that's not a decision I could afford to make
Right.
for my daughter. um, Even as I'm sharing this, I feel emotional because it was
Mhm.
a very tough time to think as a mom, you want to give everything to your child. And I do give her a lot of my time, my energy. I mean, my two businesses are started because of her, right?
Mhm.
Panda Mandarin, Girl Strong, they were both started to solve something for my daughter. But when I couldn't financially afford to do some of these things for her, such as sending her to a private school because the public school is just so taxed during that time,
Mhm.
or even like taking her on fancy trips around the world, which are, you know, you always see that on social media, right, from your
Yes.
friends. And as much as I'm happy for them, I do feel bad that I
Mhm.
can't do it the same way for my
Mhm.
daughter right now, you
Mhm.
know? And that's part of the reason I'm making this fourth career change because
Yes.
I need some of that financial stability back.
Okay, good. And one of our listeners here, our watchers, is
Mhm.
someone who support me on LinkedIn, and I support him as well, is
Mm.
John Newman. And John says, if it scares you a bit, that's a great indicator to jump in and seek the uncomfortable.
I couldn't agree more, John.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is very wise for sure.
Hmm. Okay. So, how did you stay resilient and motivated when facing uncertainty or setbacks in your career transitions?
Hmm. I think I always find the word resilient really interesting
Hmm.
because a lot of people think that resiliency is a destination that you
Hmm.
just get there and you're like, okay, I'm resilient now, right?
Yes.
And it's not. It ebbs and flows. So, you know, I've been given the compliment that I'm resilient because, as you know, I live with bipolar disorder. I'm a strong advocate for mental health. Um, and I can't say that I'm always sure. And I definitely have moments of doubt, like all the time. I think career changes, life changes, all throw wrenches into maybe a more calm like waters,
Hmm.
and those ripples that form can be ripples of doubt or they can be ripples that encourage growth. So every time you step out of your comfort zone grows a bit.
Mm.
I see that with resiliency as well. So you realize what you can withstand, and then it doesn't seem so daunting or so hard anymore. And I find that's exactly how I have navigated, I think, these challenges. And I think it's because, like what John said, you know, I have sat with the discomfort and grew my comfort zone slowly.
Hmm.
Sometimes my comfort zone shrinks too, because it's not like all of my decisions have been great and they all grow my comfort zone. Sometimes, yeah, your comfort zone could shrink,
Hmm.
but I think over time, it still is on an expansion and not contraction because I
Right.
do choose discomfort, um, so that the ripples that it creates become ripples of growth.
Hmm. I like that term, ripples of growth. Because even in terms of, somebody changing, say changing jobs, it might not be, the career change might not necessarily be, from engineering to teaching. But sometimes it's like even to change jobs. Sometimes we get so comfortable of what we're accustomed to
Yeah.
that it prevents us from what could be on the horizon, and I mean, myself, I've had several career changes as well. And the thing about it is, some of them I just boldly jumped in, you know, and it's not everyone that worked out well, but I was really keen on making feeling uncomfortable where I was and having this desire to do something different. So I can relate to you with, with some of those. I haven't done anything major like yours, like jumping from engineering to say teaching or anything like that. All
But I
right.
can see the same thing. I haven't done something major like you, like going from Jamaica to Canada and like starting life all over again. Like, so, right? We all do different things that are hard and uncomfortable, but
Yes.
no comparison needed.
Exactly. Okay. For someone who is considering a career change, and I may have covered this ask you already, for someone who is considering a career change but feeling hesitant, what's one piece of advice you would give them?
I would say, welcome the hesitance. Don't resist it.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe this is the, therapist in training in me right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
What does the hesitance say? Like what is it trying to tell you? Because all of our feelings are valid. There is no right or wrong feelings that we have.
Right.
It's usually our interpretations that may or may not be correct. But if you're feeling hesitant, let the hesitant speak to you or give it a voice. Just think about, what is it trying to teach you, or what is it trying to tell you? What is it scared of? And because if it could have a voice and it's fear, then you are experiencing fear as well, because the
Mm-hmm.
hesitance is a part of you. And I know that's not really the typical kind of answer that people would give. They would say, just do it. I don't
Yes.
think that is the best way, at least not from my perspective. I think I would want to sit with hesitance a little bit, and
Mm-hmm.
instead of pushing it down, right? Pushing it down. And because that's an energy. Hesitance is also an energy,
Mm-hmm.
and energy cannot be created or destroyed. So you need to actually sit with that and see where it could lead you, and maybe be able to make a more informed decision.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And you said, so you moved from being an engineer to a teacher, and now you are you're an entrepreneur as well. So in addition to doing your master's, you're an entrepreneur as well. And I know we talked about, you being the founder of Girls Strong.
Mm,
Can you tell us a little bit about Girls Strong and how your career changed actually? How Girls Strong became a part of your career change?
sure. I don't know. Can you see me? I can't see you anymore. The view changed. And
Okay,
I'm
yeah,
not
I change
too,
it now and again. So let me go. Let me move.
oh, okay. I'm not too familiar with StreamYard. So I was like, oh, I want to see you.
I'm
Okay, there
right
you go.
here.
I can see you now.
Yes.
Otherwise, I'm just like talking to myself.
Okay.
So,
Go ahead. Yes.
yeah. So 10 years ago, I started Panda Mandarin. So that was my introduction to entrepreneurship. So Girl Strong started actually out of grief. Um, I was raised by my grandmother from the age of 4 months old to almost 4 years old. So I didn't know my parents until I was almost four. They lived in different parts of China. So my grandmother passed away from pancreatic cancer.
Mm,
And it was one of the most devastating losses of my life. It's like losing your mom.
mm-hmm.
And my grandmother went through a lot in her life, yet she wasn't given an education until she was an adult. Like she was a child bride, and then she wasn't given any opportunities to learn, so she was illiterate until she became an adult.
Mm-hmm.
and she would work all day in the factory making cotton or cotton thread, and then she would go to night school because she really valued education and she
Mm-hmm.
didn't want to be an illiterate mother. So all of this started when my mom was born. She was the first of 5 kids, and my grandmother wanted to be able to read to my mom, to her kids.
Mm-hmm.
And my grandmother had every right to be bitter and mean and anything, because she just had such a tough life, tough beginnings, tough everything. She was raised by a single mother in the 1920s in China. So that's like almost unheard of. Um, the hardships, I mean, just
Yes,
all,
yes.
and but no, she is one of the kindest, most patient, loving, compassionate people you'll ever meet. And I really attribute a lot of like who I am and who I became to my grandmother. And so when she passed away, um, I had to take a pause to figure out like how to move on and how
Mhm.
to, handle this grief. And I knew that, what would really honor her memory is something related to education, but especially for young girls.
Mhm.
And at that time I had already read a ton of like parenting books, taken courses, because I was a mom, right? My daughter was almost 6. And I knew that for young kids, their prefrontal cortex is not developed until much later.
Mhm.
And before the age of 7, they don't have critical thinking abilities. So whatever they receive from their outside world, they receive as truth, and it stays with them. Just like what my grandmother received was, she's not worthy, she's not
Yes.
beautiful, she's not smart, like all of these negative messages, she received them, as a little girl. And of course, I'm breaking that cycle for my daughter, but I wanted to do that for other girls too. And I wanted it to be a program that was very high quality, but anyone can access regardless of their ability to pay. That was
Mhm.
really important to me. So yeah, so that's how Girl Strong started. It was a lightning beginning.
Yes.
And it's funny, I don't even know if you know the story, but Alicia, um, I call her my soul sister.
Mhm.
She was there from the very beginning, every
Mm.
step of the way. And so Girl Strong launched within 4 months. And it
Mm.
was just fueled by pure inspiration from my grandmother. It's as if she just like made it happen. I was
Yes.
just so clear. I was so clear exactly what it needs to be. So within 4 months, I had a feature on CBC. It
Mm.
was covered by Huffington Post and Globe and Mail, and the program was filled within months. It was a really, like, I felt like this is what I meant to do. Like, it really
Right.
felt right. So it's been 7 years now.
Oh, excellent.
And on International Women's Day next week, we're actually about to make a big announcement about Girl Strong, which I can't share yet,
Right.
but we've been working hard on creating something new. And so yeah, so it's been a journey for sure.
Yes. That's interesting because again, that's a career change for you, and that change is benefiting so many young young girls, right? So a career change does not necessarily mean, well, I'm leaving one job for the other because it pays more money.
Right.
It's more about, being on purpose, or doing something. And ikigai comes to mind
Yeah.
right now. What is it that you love to do? What is it?
Yeah.
Yes, that kind of thing. What is it that you would do with, if they don't pay you for it and all of that? So that's quite interesting. So
Well,
listen, we
Daisy, actually,
yes.
funny you should mention Ikigai.
Mhm.
I actually had 4 out of the 5 elements of Ikigai for many, many years.
Did you?
Yes. And the final element was really getting paid for what I do.
Mm-hmm.
And that's actually partly why I'm making this fourth career change. And even just today, my husband messaged me and he said, "Hey, I should review the 5 elements of Ikigai again." I was like, "Yeah, you should join our LinkedIn Live. We're actually going to be talking about career." But I had no idea that you were going to bring it up. But it was just, yeah, it's so.
Well, it came. I didn't have it in mind either, but just listening to you talking about how Girl Strong came about and
Yeah.
your grandmother and all of that, I just thought of it. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's been my guiding light,
Mm-hmm.
Ikigai, for a long time. And I
Great.
was slowly building up the elements, right? I was like, oh, now I have one. And then, oh, now I have two. Now I have three and four. I'm like, okay,
Mhm.
I need the fifth one now.
Yes, and you're getting there.
Yeah, yeah.
Good. Good. Okay, so listen, I've asked you all the questions that I had in mind. I don't know if there's anything else you want to add, or if not, just tell people you know how they can get in touch with you, how they can support you, or anything that you think you could share at the end of this interview. Mhm.
If I may take a big swing here, I know you're the host and you ask the guest questions, but you
Mhm.
have such a wealth of wisdom and knowledge too. Like, can I ask you a question too?
Yes, you can.
Okay. Um, I'm just so curious. What would you tell your younger self? Because I met your daughter, who's amazing, taught me how to axe throw like nobody's business. And you, oh my God, you were like secret talent of Daisy is
Right.
axe throwing. Don't get between her and the and the board.
On the board,
Um,
right.
and you raised like two amazing human beings.
Mm-hmm.
And so as a mom too, like what would you what kind of advice would you want your younger self to know, let's say 10 years ago or 20 years ago? Like what would you tell her about careers, about parenting, like anything you feel comfortable sharing? I'm curious.
Yes, I would tell her to continue on the journey, because like you, I was in situations where I felt I was being smothered, like I wasn't getting what I was really looking for. And then
Mm,
rather than sit back and sulk forever, I just re-examined myself and said, there is so much more to you than what's happening, so just explore. And like
mm.
I said earlier, it's not everything that I touched worked out, but most of them did. So that's what I would say, continue on this journey of curiosity, on this journey of, finding, meeting individuals like yourself, learning from, everybody, and just trying to be a good person and building relationships, and being a cheerleader for others as they have been cheerleaders for me. So that's what I would say. Nothing big. I wouldn't change my pathway at all, because even with the good and even with the failures, I have grown out of them, and I've continued to grow out of them. So yeah, so let me turn it back to you now, because you are my guest. Any last minute words that you would want to leave with our listeners?
I would say there are a couple of guiding kind of principles that I follow
Mm-hmm.
for myself, especially as I'm navigating this fourth career change. So one of them is trust the process.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said as well to your younger self, just follow the journey and just having that trust the process. And what's part of the process for me is also myself. Trust yourself
Mm-hmm.
too. And then the next one is this too shall pass, because there are lots of hard times and that could make me want to give up
Yes.
different ways. but just know that however hard it is, however difficult the storm is, this too shall pass.
Great.
So those two would probably be what I would want to leave with. And you asked how people can find me. People can
Yes.
find me on LinkedIn, my name, Yolanda Zhang, and my Instagram page is the same name, Yolanda Zhang, and YouTube, same name, all the same name.
Great.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for spending this time with me. And, I'm sure people who are watching or listening now and who will watch and listen later will definitely gain some perspectives from you in terms of how to go about braving a career change. So thank you so much, Yolanda.
And thank you so much, Daisy. And thank you for everyone who attended live and who's going to be watching the replay. Just to know how incredible connections can be, right? That this never imagined this could be possible. And I'm so glad that you invited me to join you. And it's been such a great experience. Thank you so much, Daisy. And thank you for all you do.
And thank you too. And thank you for all you do as well. Take care.
Take care. Bye.
Bye-bye. Let me end.
Should we leave the studio?
Yeah, you can leave the studio, but
Oh, I can wait.
No, I need to just end this. But there are all sort of things in my way here. Okay, I'm going to end the stream. So you might be cut off.
Okay.
It doesn't tell me to stop recording. So I'll just end the stream and we'll catch up.